Welcome to the Expansive CEO podcast. I'm your host, Hannah Chapman, founder of Expansive CEO and X Squared Wealth Planning. Buckle in as we explore how to create true prosperity and build a business and a life that expands beyond yourself and makes a dent in the universe. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here at the Expansive CEO podcast. I am your host, Hannah Chapman, and we are doing something special over the next few weeks here. My family is moving. We are doing a big cross-country move. And if any of you have ever done such a thing, especially with 3 kids and 2 dogs and a 4-bedroom house worth of stuff, you know that it takes a lot of time and effort. So I am reaching back into our wonderful, wonderful archive and pulling back some of the most interesting, most listened to, most beautiful episodes that I have gotten to record over the last several years, with my wonderful friends, with my colleagues, with some just awesome humans that I think deserve a little more airtime. So I hope you enjoy. We will be going. Some are going back pretty far, 100 episodes, 150 episodes or so ago, and just really bringing back those conversations that are really powerful, and some that are still very present, actually, in the world right now. Things to look out for, things to be aware of and wondering about and exploring more deeply. So I hope you enjoy these episodes from the archives. And if you hear one that you want to explore more, go ahead and check it out. We'll let you know in the show notes which episode it is. So you can go back and explore more and find that creator, find that person. Just bringing new life, breathing new life into some of our most well-loved episodes. Thanks. Welcome, everyone, to this episode of the Expansive CEO podcast. Today, I have a super interesting guest that I'm so excited to share with you. Her name is Melanie Marisol, and she was a connection from a dear friend, Jennifer Lyle, who is also so heart-centered and helps people connect with their higher selves. And so she met Melanie and was like, hey, you should totally meet Hannah. And from that connection, it was like, yes, absolutely. We should meet and keep talking and have lunch together in person and all of the things. And now here we are today on the podcast. So Melanie is a business astrologer. She's a shadow integration doula and a 3rd-generation medium, helping small business owners and medium enterprise CEOs unearth the legacy impact they were born to leave behind. She also helps fellow healers and visionaries magnetize aligned abundance for their soul-led, intuitive businesses. And I cannot tell you how awesome I think all of that is. So, Melanie, I would love for you to introduce yourself a little bit and tell us how you got to where you are right now. Tell us a little bit about your journey.
All right. Thank you for having me, Hannah. So let's see. I started off after undergrad in social work. And at the time I graduated college, it was very in vogue to get a master's degree for no reason and take out money that I didn't have to get a master's degree. And I thought, that's very foolish of me. So I considered getting a master's in social work, but I thought I should get work in the field. And I got the work experience. I did that for 4 years. It was a very dangerous job. It was a very dirty job, to be honest. And it just really was not aligned. Like, my gifts were not meant to be on the streets of Baltimore City doing homeless outreach. So during that time, I had to really develop a lot of spiritual tools that I just did not have prior to that. So it really actually forced me to really focus on what are my values? What am I really meant to be doing here? I'm not happy. So because I was in not a joy-filled place, I had to learn how to cultivate joy and pleasure no matter what was going on around me. So I had left that job after 4 years. I left the quote unquote stable job with the stable income.
Mm-hmm.
I did not even get paid bachelor pay at that job, although they required a bachelor's degree. So yeah, I wasn't giving up much. So at that time, when I was doing social work, I had to work multiple jobs. So I worked in boutiques, and then after I left, I just committed to managing boutiques. And I really had to switch from doing work with those that don't even have housing to those that have luxury ideals and they like materialistic things and they like beautiful things and they have way more money. So it was very interesting to like work between the two worlds. And because I finally got to manage this boutique that made 10 grand a month on foot traffic alone, I really just learned a lot more about business and what makes a successful business going. So with that job, I also had the mental space to do what I've always been interested in doing. So I've always been interested in the esoteric. I've always been interested in the occult. I've always been interested in astrology. And I learned about mythology, which is the basis of astrology, while growing up in the Greek Orthodox Church and learning about the gods and goddesses at Sunday school. Does it make sense? No.
It's
But
all good.
if you know Greeks, they love to talk about themselves and love to talk about their heritage. So we're going to learn about it in Sunday school, whether anyone likes it or not. So this has been a lifelong pursuit. So when I had left the social work job, I kind of had this, it's like a side hustle, if you will, while I was still managing a boutique. And then I worked a series of other day jobs in different industries just to get that multiple perspectives when it comes to running a successful business. And then by 2020, I just like fully had committed to just mastering astrology.
Mm.
And I got the fundamentals really quickly. So kind of just blossomed from there. And then when it comes to business astrology, it's important to understand your own personal astrology. And then business and finance astrology is focused on mass psychology as well. So what's going on with you individually versus what's going on collectively.
And that is so interesting to me, is that difference between the personal astrology and then the business slash collective
Mhm.
astrology, right? So it's like, um, I'll relate it a little bit back to human design,
Yes.
since that's, kind of the system that I really just fell in love with over the last several years and have been diving into as well. And in the last, year or so, maybe in a little less than a year, I started being really curious about the planet placements, because in human design, astrology is a big piece of it. Not a big piece, it's integral
Mhm.
to how you understand your human design. And I recently met another woman who also is very versed in astrology, and that was really the main thing that she did for a long time. And then she started learning about human design as well, and was
Mm.
like, oh, this is really interesting how these go together, where the astrology is like the story of your life, and
Yes.
it really shows, um yeah, like the personality traits and the different aspects of you in that like story of your life
Mhm.
area form. And then the collective astrology, that was the other piece that was really interesting to me too, is that, especially these and long transit type planets, Pluto, Neptune, the big ones that
Mhm.
rule generations versus, just one year. All of those things started really sparking my interest over this past year. So as I've been learning more and more, I have had people come into my life who are like, raise their hand, like, yeah, this is what I do, or, let's talk more about that. And so I do feel like that was one of those connections with Jennifer. It was like, oh,
Mm.
yeah, you are a person that I was calling in. right? Wanting to learn more, wanting to have more conversation about it and explore further and just allow my curiosity to guide me, right, to like what's next. And so yeah, I would love to hear from your perspective what that difference really is, because like I said, like I have like a little bit and I'm learning and I'm super interested, but the collective versus the
Mm.
personal, what does that look like when you are looking at that?
Right. So I think what's important to understand is that astrology ultimately is the study of archetypes. It is not the study of personality types. I'll explain. The 12 zodiac signs represent the 12 archetypes that are within every human being, but each person has a unique birth chart. And so those archetypes are at varying levels within each person's birth chart. So that unique mix of those levels of the archetypes that are activated is what makes up your personality. Your personality in Psych 101 is how you react to the world around you. So that's the foundational thing if people need to understand with astrology. When it comes to finance or business astrology, it is true. You are paying more attention to the outer planets. So they're beyond Saturn. So Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. I don't care what Neil deGrasse Tyson says. Pluto is still a planet. It was discovered in 1930. Um,
In Flagstaff, Arizona, with the Hubble, with the Lowell Observatory telescope, I'll add, because I went to college in northern Arizona, and
mm,
so when Pluto was like, when they were taking it away, it was we were sad about that in Flagstaff.
I think it's a conspiracy to separate humans from facts and the planetary environment because the drama is with Pluto, for example, despite the fact that people believe it's a planet or not, if you look out historically throughout millennia, when there's always a big power shift going down within every country, within every culture, Pluto is usually very activated. It is like coming around to activate structures that don't work. So whatever is
Mhm.
not sustainable, Pluto will take it out. It's the planet of regeneration, death, destruction, unexpected endings. And so it's a very small but mighty planet.
Mm.
So we stand Pluto as a planet. So with that, I think it's also important to understand that people don't know this, but there is a very long history of astrology in American business and Wall Street. So this is real life. There was an astrologer. She made her big debut in 1899. Her name was Evangeline Adams, and she was a direct descendant of John Adams, the U.S. president.
Did not know that.
She's part of the Adams family, if you will. Kind of funny. So with that, she was J.P. Morgan's astrologer, and he actually came to her after he made all his money. And his logic was it was probably a mix of novelty and curiosity, and also he wanted to retain that competitive advantage. At the same time, there was this guy. He was a Texas-born farm boy. His name was William Delbert Gann, but he went by W.D. Gann. And he created the field of stock market charting, what we now call technical market analysis today. And he did all this at 31 years old, at like the turn of the century in the early 1900s. He was out here accomplishing a lot. And so his advisory letter, which was talking about astroeconomics basically and how it affects the stock market, it sold for $3,000 annually during like pre-World War I times, right?
Wow.
So at the average time, the weekly wage that someone was earning at that time was $15. So the fact that it went for $3,000 back then is amazing. He made over $50 million during his lifetime, utilizing his knowledge of the outer planets and how they affect the stock market. And he basically built his fortune on charting cycles and trends. And we also know that there were pamphlets basically distributed and sold explaining trends and planet cycles on Wall Street as far back as 1875. So when people talk about, oh, astrology is not real, I think it kind of went underground a little bit more when Ronald Reagan was discovered to have had a personal astrologer as well. People were like judging his ability to make decisions. What head of state has not used astrology? Evangeline Adams also was a advisor to Wall Street hedge fund managers, all kinds of businessmen. And what I learned from reading her book, which anyone can buy, it's called The Bowl of Heaven. She explains that the businessman that came to see her would come in, they talk about business and like what's going to go on with the stock market and what do I need to look at? Where are the long-term cycles? But then also the men more so than the women were asking more about romance, which I thought
Mm.
was very interesting. They were like, but secretly, what's at the end, they'd be like, so what's my love life going to be? So it's very interesting to see that marriage of like the personal and the collective astrology together. And it's so sweet to know that men are very sensitive, even in the 1900s, when we don't have as good of a perspective.
Yeah, no, that's so interesting because yeah, like you said, you wouldn't the fact that it's like um I love the Ronald Reagan example because it's such a like it's not what you expect. Once you learn more about Reagan and all of that,
Mm,
and his the legacy of his presidency and whatnot. Yeah, so to think that he was seeing an astrologer before, like, oh yeah, I can. That's interesting.
mhm,
Even in the sense of being quote unquote outed for it and then like pushing it away, right? Because it
right,
was counter to what his political base was
right.
expecting from him.
Mhm,
So super interesting. But that, yeah, that piece of what people, wanting it to be just really black and white, or, tell me what it's going to be, or kind of like a future predicting the future type thing,
mhm.
right? That has always to me been like, okay, so tell me what your thoughts are on that. What I understand is that it's um, showing us the cycles, like you said, like the overall collective cycles that we could be going through. And it doesn't mean that, on this day at this time, this specific thing is going to happen. It's just that these are the influences that will be causing collective shifts
Mm.
in different ways. So, yeah, like tell me how correct or off base I am with that.
Yeah, so there is predictive astrology. It's associated with the term horary astrology. So Horary astrology. So that first word is considered, the literal translation is old astrology.
Mm.
Although Evangeline Adams did practice that, she was using modern astrology and she also acknowledged Pluto. So clearly a woman ahead of her time. So with that, it is a thing. I guess you can predict things based on an individual's chart and be like, oh, I see, for example, you have a lot of Capricorn in your chart. Capricorn is the CEO, the executive of the zodiac, the authority, the boss. But it's also Capricorn rules the bones and the teeth, especially the joints. So she could also predict, oh, depending upon what was going on in her the Capricorn placement, you're actually probably going to get arthritis later on in life, unless you eat healthy or, support your body in the best way. So that is a type of astrology. When it comes to understanding collective energy, if you will, it's always important to know specific planets throughout the year. So sometimes people ask me like, oh, how do I plan on my year? What am I even looking for? Like it's a very vast subject, right?
Right.
So I think if anybody takes anything from this interview here, if you're going to utilize some astrology in your day to day or plan out your 2024, for example, you would look at the new and full moons, right? You get a new moon once a month, full moon once a month. New moon is about setting intentions, right? That it's not shining, it's not illuminated. So, what are your seeds you want to plant? Full moon, what do you need to release? Maybe your innermost self is the most visible. That's why everyone seems to go crazy during the full moon. And there's actually increased ER activity during the full moon. So what do you need to release? What's holding you back? And then, you prepare for the next cycle. When it comes to planning launches or product launches or deciding when to acquire a business, check out when Mercury is in retrograde. It happens around 3 times a year. So, just be aware. Not the best time to sign contracts. You may not get all the information you need. There might be miscommunication errors since Mercury is the planet of communication. So again, you still have to live your life. So you can have a launch during Mercury retrograde. Just like give yourself enough grace and space. What's going on with Venus, the planet that rules love, beauty, art, and money? is that retrograde at all? It happens around every 18 months. So again, not the most amazing time to acquire a business or start a new endeavor. Again, that sensual Venus Venusian mist can kind of get you all excited about the possibilities, but you don't really have the full picture or all the information to move forward. At the time of this recording, we have Jupiter, the planet of good luck, abundance, and opportunity. It's retrograde. So normally, if it was going direct, right, you got all this opportunity laid out before you. It's a great time, right? If it's retrograde, it looks like it's going backwards from where we are on Earth from an astronomical perspective. So maybe this is not a time to like bite off more than you can chew. So maybe you have a lot of opportunities ahead of you. So it's a good time to review, reflect, reevaluate, and then move forward. So that's what the retrograde is about. It's a review kind of time of year.
I like that.
Yeah. So when it comes to something like the outer planets like Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, those are considered generational planets because they take so long to get all the way around the sun. So, for example, Pluto stays around 30-ish years or so in one sign. Of course, there's retrograde motions as well. So I wouldn't say like, oh no, Pluto's in retrograde, so I cannot make any business move. Or this is a horrible time to do wealth planning with Hannah. Like, oh, if you're waiting for Pluto to not be in retrograde, like you'll be waiting for a few years. So calm down. It's more important to understand again. Just know what's happening in the background. Know that Neptune and Uranus at the time of this recording are also in retrograde. So the planet Neptune of dreams and illusions and fantasies and general artistic expression. It looks like it's going backwards. So again, this is the time to take off those rose-colored glasses and be honest about what you're doing with your life. You know, just keeping it real. Uranus, the planet of unpredictability, and again, unexpected endings. It's going backwards. So maybe again, you might feel like you're taking one step forward and three steps back. So again, you might find that you're getting progress through your wealth planning goal or your business goal. But sometimes it just seems to be like these unexpected roadblocks. So instead of freaking out and assuming, oh no, it's not meant to be, I should give up, you can say, how can I make this a game actually? And how can I make the game of life? You know?
That's so that piece that you just went into right there is how I feel when I hear people even, you know, talking about astrology, talking about human design, people saying like, oh, so it's, you know, I don't like it because it's telling me what I have to be or who I am, you know, all of those things. Like it's this is who you are, and so like deal with it. Or even people who say this is who I am, so deal with it, right? Like that's not what this is.
Right.
It is like you said, it's like revealing the energies that are around already that exist for everyone and are, you know, if you're the person who can take those setbacks and turn them into opportunities, turn it into a game, turn it into, you know, bring levity and light to these pieces of, you know, we need to reflect and refine, but how do we make it positive? How do we make it an opportunity? That's how you win. And I think that actually goes back to what you were talking about with JP Morgan, even, right? Like, so, okay, where's the opportunity versus, you know, this is happening, so I just have to hunker down and deal with it.
Right. And that's the thing. Someone like JP Morgan, I don't really know how amazing of a legacy left behind. I don't really know if people view him as a philanthropist, really.
Yeah, I don't know.
he did what he wanted. He did what he wanted. So that kind of person though was like want to be retain the competitive edge. Nothing. His energy, his natural chart, if you were to look at it, was very just like busting through it, just getting it done, grinding. Like does not care. Will mow someone down, right? So someone that's listening to this podcast is probably heart centered and they care a lot about the collective, right? So take all that information that he would have learned and apply it in the most you know, source-centered way, God-centered way, most impactful way, and it'll work out great for you, and yet it'll expand, right? So actually, some of the most cutthroat people ever happen to be, for example, have a lot of cancer activity. So John D. Rockefeller, kind of a shady dude, if you read the history about him. He actually was a Cancer sun, very much focused on the family, very much a family guy, loved his family and everything. But his approach to life was very much like tearing people down, right?
Mm.
So the type of integration he used for his business was like, I'm taking over every single aspect. I'm going to buy out the competition, right? But ultimately, this guy who comes off as cutthroat did not like surprise encounters, did not like to be like, he just wanted to be left alone. Actually, he's very reclusive. So it was very interesting. Like he was showing kind of the more negative aspects of this particular zodiac sign. So again, just like understanding just because this person was a little shady doesn't mean that if you get more money that you're going to turn into that. It's just not who you are.
Yeah, I think that's really a really beautiful thing to bring in to the conversation here, because you're absolutely right. The people that are drawn to me and, my own heart is in helping people create more wealth for their lives, for their families, for their business, for their employees, for um, true flow through impact. Right. And so if we
Mm,
are able to utilize all of the tools that are available to us to know ourselves better and um, to know others better, to be able to see others more clearly for who they are as well,
hmm.
then that 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 sense of looking at everything through the lens of opportunity then becomes right when we're working. And this is the other piece. It allows us to work with energies. It allows us to work with our own energy and work with the collective energy rather than
Yes.
push against it. And then when wealth building becomes easier and
Mm,
flows more easily, then we're able to be more abundant, more prosperous, and share and give and have impact and lift up the communities that each of us cares about lifting up, even if that starts from lifting up your own family, right?
yeah.
Like that. I have clients who are healing generational trauma in themselves. They're healing up, they're healing for their children. I mean,
Hmm.
it's like that is important for the collective as well, right? When you are again working with your own energy and learning more about yourself and healing in all kinds of ways, whether that's for, some of us have a bigger, broader collective lens, some of us have a more tribal, familial lens.
Mm,
And either way is not wrong. It just is, we need people in each of those different seats caring
yes.
about those different things, right? And so I think this is another piece of what you're bringing in now with, like, knowing who you are actually helps you direct your energy more specifically towards what you care about.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I think we live in this social media world, and if you're successful, then you'll show everything off on social media. Maybe everyone's running for the same materialistic goals, but that's not really what you want to do. And maybe people think they're not doing enough, right? Because they have all their finances handled. Their family is thriving. They're very happy. They've got the red Corvette they've always wanted, which is great. And they're like, well, I'm not making as much as insert uh, Warren Buffett, so therefore I'm not as successful or something. I'm not making as much of an impact. And actually you are actually by you being the most self-expressed version of yourself, that actually can heal things. You don't have to be making these like huge quantum leaps. That's what people expect. Not all the time, you know? So for example, my partner, his father and stepmother are like low-key millionaires, right? They worked hard at this particular business. And what he explains is they are helping the world heal just by being a really sweet older couple that's still in love, and they're just being lovely. They're loving to their community. They don't isolate in their house. They do go out and like their other community. They try to be mentors to younger people and other business owners, Just because they're not on social media flashing it around or they haven't got featured in Forbes doesn't mean they're not making an impact as well.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Yeah, the being loving to each other, right?
Mhm.
That's the piece. Oh my gosh, yes. When we express ourselves in the way that yeah, is our specific imprint, our specific archetype mix. Um, yeah, I think that's what's so special to me about, our personal astrology and our personal human design is
Mhm.
the uniqueness that we each bring. Uh,
Exactly.
and okay, so here's the other piece I wanted to talk about with you. So I have had this question a couple of times, and I'll give you my answer and then I want to hear your answer. So
Mhm.
I've had people ask, okay, so if it's based on when you're born and where you're born,
Mm.
then if someone else is born at the exact same time in the same time zone as you, then they have the same, design or the same chart. And how does that, like, are we the same person? Like, that seems ridiculous. And, when I thought about that, I'm like, why would that be ridiculous? It was my first thought. And then my second thought was like, okay, nope, actually answer it, like answer the question. Um, and from my perspective, it's that, okay, yes, you could be born at the exact same time in the same place and have the same, chart placements, but your environment that you grow up in is going to then
Mm.
express either, your expression on the high side or the low side of any of the pieces of your own chart are going to vary. So if you have,
Mm.
we have so many different aspects to us, and depending on how we grow up and the environment that we're in, and I don't know, are you in a military family that moved 12 times? Are you in
Mm.
a family with entrepreneurs? Are you in a family where, your dad is the president? Like,
Right.
this is all going to shift the expression of each of those aspects in your
Mm.
chart. And so starting from the same inputs, you're going to get a variation of lived experiences that will then inform how you express and show up in the world. So that was my answer to that. What do you
Yeah.
feel?
So in the book, The Bowl of Heaven by Evangeline Adams, again, I'm just repping this book here. She discusses that concept. So, for example, in England, there was the king, King Edward, and he was born around the same time as someone else in his village. So they have same birth time, very like basically the same chart. One's a king and one is a common person. And interestingly, they did have similar lives. So similar events playing out. It was just the different scales and calibers, right? So this king died similarly to this child, or this grown man at this point. They kind of still had the same personality. So both of them were like really into womanizing and generally being a hot mess. One is more visible because he's the king of England, the other is not as much. So soul twins is considered a thing. And it's just very interesting that they have the same lives. So, okay, we'll bring it into the 20th century. I am born. I'm born on October 12th. So someone I'm sure was born the same time as me, despite the fact that I was a girl and he might be a boy. So we might have similar lives playing out in that, maybe he became some sort of esoteric healer. I'm an astrologer, maybe he became a shaman, right? It's kind of within the same realm. Maybe at this time I'm doing a lot of podcast interviews. Maybe he's doing a lot of podcast interviews. Maybe he's being more visible, right? So it seems like the rates of things seem to happen around the same time, the events, whatever. So that's a thing that does happen. And because we like to use and consciousness in my world. So we also incarnate on this planet, knowing ahead of time what kind of experiences we want, what we're going to look like, what kind of environments we choose to be born into. I like to watch people talk about their near death experiences. That's what I do in my
Mm.
free time. And so the consistent thing that they learn is when they go into this, liminal space between heaven and earth, I should say. Um, the consistent thing that I hear is you even choose your parents. You choose the family you're born into.
Mm.
So you chose all that. You chose to be born around the same time as someone else and kind of have a somewhat similar life. You chose to have really challenging parents. You chose to have really amazing parents, right? So I think sometimes when I say this, people interpret me as saying, pull yourselves up from your bootstraps.
Mm.
It's not what I'm really saying. What I'm saying is you did choose it at an ultimate level. And anything negative that might have happened to you or traumatic that happened to you as a kid, it is not your fault. Like, no, I'm not blaming anything horrible like that on children. But it is, because you're an adult now, it is your responsibility to heal from it. You got a choice. You can either do it or not. So no judgment either way. But if you choose not to heal from it, I don't know, you're making your life very difficult. So you're always going to probably have the lowest expression of what your chart is giving. Because at the end of the day, the chart is your roadmap. It's a neutral evaluation tool. So you can either have the highest expressions or the lowest expressions because we are humans and we have free will.
Mm.
That's how it
So
is.
yeah, so I agree with you with all of everything that you just shared, that resonates with me really deeply, that we all have challenging experiences, especially growing up. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's even people who um I mean, I had a very challenging childhood. um I'm a very, very sensitive person, and I was a very sensitive child. um and yeah, the environment that I grew up in was not conducive to
Mm-hmm.
my level of sensitivity. I have had friends and acquaintances who say that, my parents were amazing. I grew up in this, idyllic environment, and I still was, I did X, Y, and Z, right? Like that was,
Mm-hmm.
they created other drama for themselves as children. And I really do believe that even our traumatic experiences are, like you said, it's we get to choose how long we hold on to it, how
Mm-hmm.
long, it takes us to look at it. And not in a way, I like that you brought in the fact that it's not like we're not blaming,
Mm-hmm.
we're not blaming children for the experiences that they're having. We're not blaming, um, no victim blaming consciousness here at all. But if you continue to allow yourself to be victimized long past when the trauma
Mm-hmm.
happened, that's where, that it, you keep playing it and playing it and playing it and continuing to re-victimize yourself over and
Right.
over again. When you have, when you're an adult, when you're through the trauma itself, that's when you have the choice to step out of victim consciousness
Right. And
and make a new
so
choice.
So with that, and I'll also add this as well. We like to do some more ands. Yeah. So of course, deal with it, be an adult, utilize your traumas as your greatest teacher. Now, are there not societal systems in place that are not really designed that great for most people? Yes. Are there societal issues and problems we have to deal with collectively? Everybody's got to be involved. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. But if you're too busy being a victim, well, woe is me. Okay, great. You're really helping people. Like, come on. Versus, hey, I'm going to work on myself. I'm going to be kind to myself as I heal. And I don't want this to happen to other people. I'm going to make the impact that I can, however I see fit, however I can. And that's the thing. We're not out here all trying to do the same thing. The our different levels of desires for dealing with different social problems is how we come together as a super awesome quilt, as you could say, or a collective that we're working together as a team. Because the biggest challenge of being on this planet as well is that we believe we are separate from source or the universe, when really we are all one, right? So I heard from a class I took with the Earth Oracle. Yes, we are all one, but we are each unique expressions of the one. So therefore, we should work together. And if we tear each other down, talking about how you have more privilege than me, or vice versa, blah blah blah, and that's all the discourse is, we're not really living again at our highest expression. And every human being, no matter what, has the ability to reach their highest expression.
Mm. Oh, I love that. I really, I I fully believe what you said as well with the societal conditions that do exist right now, and there are things in
Mm-hmm.
systems that need to change. And I feel like, we talked about the outer planets and things like those
Yeah.
show us, right? Like that's part of what that shows us is, hey, these systems are not working. And I think we're in a time right now where we are seeing very clearly some of the very oppressive systems that do not work for everyone. And so this is this is a time for us to come into, okay, how do I heal myself so
Hmm.
that I can help heal the piece of, I love that, the piece of the quilt
Hmm.
that I'm meant to help with, right?
Yeah.
Rather than, yeah, like inside, stay, victimized,
Hmm.
and just be unwilling to heal yourself, because when we heal ourselves is when we are creating the space to allow others to heal as well. That's
Exactly.
that's how I see it anyway. You're like, yeah, like when you take care of yourself in a way that, lifts, again, not lifting you up by your bootstraps. I do not believe in that concept at all. But when you take radical responsibility,
Hmm.
that's the space where you can then say, okay, I can do this. I can trust myself. I can rely on myself. I can be a whole person. I am whole. I am safe. All of that. I trust myself. You naturally start to extend that to other people as well, and start
Hmm.
to trust and show an example of, oh, they healed through something difficult. I can heal through something difficult as well, is
Yeah.
what that feels like to me.
Be embodying the change you wish to see is the
Mhm.
thing, you know? So, I
Mm.
mean, I've had a lot of really horrible things happen to me. My childhood was very psychologically stressful. So I'm grateful didn't experience homelessness. I didn't go hungry. But my mother was not really the most stable person. So I felt like I was in a battlefield, when I was at home. So it was like psychologically stressful.
Mhm.
But am I going to be like, oh, that happened to me and I'm going to be a horrible mom? Like, what a great attitude. Or like, oh, this happened to me and I'm totally screwed. Like, okay, like, why am I here? So I think that's what you need to give yourself a container to wallow. I'm all about that as well. So if anybody doesn't know, you can read a book. It's called Pussy Reclamation by Regina Thomas Hauer. She talks about the concept of swamping, which allows you to cry and scream for 15 to 30 minutes to sad music, do whatever it is you gotta do. Tie it up in a bow with a nice song at the end. Give yourself that container to grieve. And then please go do something else. If you need to do it again, give yourself that 15 to 30-minute container, of course. You got to contain the emotion that is moving through you. So again, you're not
Mm.
shoving it down. You just have to give it a container to express, and then you also have to live your life.
Mm. I wondered if we would get to that.
Yeah.
I love, yeah, it's such a good book. We've got all kinds of book recommendations. In this podcast, we'll put them in the show notes too. But yes, it is, that I read that maybe about a year and a half ago, and really, really found that particular concept to be super helpful when things felt really difficult, and I was, feeling really like down about myself.
Mm.
My example is that I put on ridiculous makeup. Like I just went like with like the palette and just was like
Yep.
insane, and just did, and it was just like I did it, and then I like was seeing, I think I had like some Evanescence going, or like, so
Oh
I don't
yeah.
know. So just I just totally went all in with it, and then I went through it, and then I was laughing, and I took a picture of
Mhm.
myself because I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah, just commit to being completely insane. Also, I just discovered yesterday the concept the Gen Z youth are just so talented. This girl on the internet came up with the concept of taking heavy metal music and then combining it with her natural vocals to create siren core. So I guess like heavy metal for mermaids, and actually it's pretty good. So respect. Her name is Banshee. She came up with The Birth of Venus. It's on Spotify. And there's also another one that's like they're all caps and it says like kill all predators. So I feel like that's like a very like let's get it out, scream it out kind of music, you know?
Beautiful, perfect for the swamping. Um,
Yes, yes,
I love
Siren
that.
Core. It's the thing now.
Awesome. Well, Melanie, I cannot express truly just how grateful I am to have met you,
Mm,
um, both like online and in person at this point. So it's been so wonderful having this conversation with you, and being able to introduce you to my audience as well.
mm,
How can people find you and talk more, and yeah, get their own, start to learn more about their own process and their personal astrology for themselves, for their business,
mm.
all of that? Where can people reach you?
Right. So you can find me on Instagram or LinkedIn. It's at Melanie_Marisol. So it's Marisol. You can also find me at melaniemarisol.com. I have some one-off readings. So my signature one is called the Divine Assignment reading. It's 90 minutes, so you get lifetime access to it. And if you are listening through Hannah's podcast and you book a reading, you get 15 extra minutes with me. So we discuss, why are you here? What is your soul mission? What is the legacy that you're born to leave behind? And how can you actually do it? I don't like having fluffy readings. So this is a very practical, hands-on approach. And it's going to set you up for self-mastery in the event that you want to do it. I also have another 90-minute reading. It's called the Aligned Abundance reading. So that is if you are trying to figure out what areas of life is the best way to channel abundance, stack some cash, what areas of life are going to be a little more challenging, what's going on with your money asteroids, and what's going on as well with your wealth planets, to include Venus and Jupiter. So again, if you sign up for a reading, you get 15 extra minutes with me. And yeah, that's how people can connect with me.
And that will all be in the show notes as well. So people can easily find that wherever you're listening. Just look at the show notes. And Melanie, thank you again for being here. It was such a pleasure to have you.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, everyone. As always, if you have any questions, anything that resonated with you from this episode, please reach out to either me or Melanie or both of us and let us know. It's always getting your feedback, getting your questions, knowing what touched your heart or didn't. What if something fired you up? If you disagree, like I want to hear that too. Let's have a discussion. So cool. Thank you so much. And we will see you again next time. That's it for this episode. Thanks for listening, and be sure to like and subscribe. And again, if anything resonated with you from this episode, I would love to hear from you. Email me at Hannah, HANNAH, at expansiveceo.com and tell me about it. And if you're ready for your greatest expansion, you can find ways to work with me at expansiveceo.com and at x2wealthplanning.com. That's X, the numeral 2, wealthplanning.com. So until next time, remember that there is enough. You are enough. And your birthright in this lifetime is to be expansive.